Hello, Dr. Coker here, and I'm going to explain the entire post-Stormblood story in 10 minutes. This includes patches 4.1 to 4.56. Let's get started. At the close of Stormblood, both Alamigo and Doma have been liberated from Garlean occupation. With the dust settled, Scion ally Arenvald suggests a new adventure, to seek the treasure of the legendary Mad King Theodric of Alamigo. After some investigation, you are led to the drowned city of Scala, which is full of monsters, but you clear them out and sure enough, find the treasure. The three of you decide to give it to Lise to help alleviate poverty in Alamigo. Just as she's thanking you, unrest breaks out in the city. The people are furious that Fordola has still not been executed. Raban steps forward and reminds them that Garlemald thinks them savages, so they better not prove them right. The crowd disperses, and we see a glimpse of Fordola's past. We learn that her parents were stoned to death by fellow Alamigans because they were willing to peacefully accept their new Garlean rulers. After this, you investigate the lab where Kryl was once held, and find that her echo powers were being transferred to others, such as Fordola. Then you meet with the Sultana in Ul'dah, and she wants to help Alamigo. After much discussion, she sets up a mutually beneficial business agreement involving the abundant salt mines near Alamigo. Alamigo still has no government, so Lise arranges a meeting of local leaders. Unfortunately, the Kalyana, who worship Sri Lakshmi, crash the party and summon their primal. Lise gives Fordola a weapon and a chance to redeem herself. Possessing the Echo, she's able to face the primal alongside you and Arenvald, who also has the Echo. Lakshmi is defeated, but Fordola voluntarily goes back to her cell, racked with guilt. Moving on, it is decided that Alamigo will be ruled by a body of elected representatives, and the Sultana relieves Raban of his duties in Ul'dah so he can help rebuild his homeland. Sometime later, reports of sightings of Yotsuyu and Gosetsu reach Hancock, so he summons the Scions back to Kugani. Their investigations lead them to the Ruby Sea. Just as they arrive at the Ruby Sea, Garlemald attacks the Confederacy, which seems to confirm their suspicions that Yotsuyu is there. The heroes intervene and fight through waves of Garlean soldiers until they find Gosetsu and Yotsuyu, and to their shock, Gosetsu is protecting her. He explains that when the roof of Doma Castle collapsed on them, so did the floor beneath them, and they were swept away in the river. Thus they survived, but Yotsuyu seems to have lost all her memories, so he believes the Kami gave him the duty of protecting her. They go to the Doman Enclave to seek Hien's orders on the matter. Hien assigns a guard to watch her for now, but the guard panics and flees. You chase him down and find that he has a dark history with Yotsuyu. In the past, he once employed her as a prostitute, so he feels he bears some of the blame for the hurt she inflicted on Domans years later. Hien assigns someone else the task. Then a Garlean ship approaches peacefully. It lands and outsteps Ambassador Asahi, stepbrother of Yotsuyu, and Maxima of the Garlean Populares. The Populares are a faction of Garleans who want to reform Garlemald and make peace with its neighbors. Asahi and Hien negotiate back at the Enclave, where Asahi says that as long as Doma promises to stop icons in their lands, Garlemald offers peace. He also offers many Doman prisoners in exchange for Yotsuyu. Later, Hien puts Yotsuyu to the test and is convinced her amnesia is real. He agrees to Asahi's terms, except he says that as long as Yotsuyu's amnesia persists, she is to stay and be considered a Doman citizen. Asahi visits her briefly and gives her a mirror, but she doesn't remember him. Before Asahi departs, he speaks to you alone and drops all pretense. He says you're disgusting, he hates everything you stand for, and that there will be a reckoning. Once he's gone, you tell Hien what happened, but he still thinks it's best to play along. The hero then has a vision of the past, and we learn that Asahi is in complete awe of Xenos and reveres him. Back in the present, we get a small glimpse of Xenos, showing he is somehow still alive. Sometime later, Yotsuyu wanders off to get a persimmon for Gosetsu, going into a nearby village where everyone hates her and she has no idea why. Hien arrives and defends her despite the angry villagers. The next morning, you meet with Asahi for the prisoner exchange, and he brings Yotsuyu's abusive parents. She collapses when she sees them, and painful memories rack her brain. She goes missing for some time, but after a while, we find that she killed her parents and re-embraced her evil nature, all orchestrated by Asahi. The prisoner exchange is resumed, but now Yotsuyu has fully returned to her evil self and claims authority over Doma. After Hien says her authority is no longer recognized, she pulls out the mirror and transforms into a primal. The hero defeats her, but Asahi says that she was a Doman citizen who summoned an icon, so all negotiations are off. As she dies, she uses her last bit of energy to kill Asahi. Her final words are her wondering how Gosetsu liked the persimmon she gave him. You have another vision, and this one shows that Xenos gave Asahi the mirror and planned this summoning. He even expected you to defeat her, but he wants to use this as propaganda to silence the Populares. Back in the present, Gosetsu grieves over Yotsuyu, and Maxima of the Populares approaches. He still wishes for peace, and intends to help the Scions now. Boldly, Alphinaud offers to travel with him back to Garlemald, and he accepts. Later, the Doman prisoners are returned to their families. Then Gosetsu shaves his head, says he's no longer fit to wield a weapon, and he wishes to spend his days on a spiritual pilgrimage. Hien gives his blessing. You return to Rhalgr's Reach to update Lys. She and Thancred are most shocked about Xenos being alive, so you decide to check his grave. Sure enough, it's empty, and Ascian possession is suspected. Meanwhile, a katana-wielding soldier in Alamigo kills a fellow soldier and flies away. Later, en route to Garlemald, Maxima and Alphinaud are attacked by a Garlean fleet. They are rescued by a man calling himself Shadowhunter, and together they walk the Burn, a barren land between Doma and Garlemald. Back at the Rising Stones, Thancred offers to sneak into Garlemald to check on Alphinaud. Some months later, Thancred returns and says the people of Garlemald are furious about the Doman summoning and the voices of the Populares are drowned out. He found that Alphinaud never made it to Garlemald. Y'shtola and the other Scions investigate the burn. They find the wreckage and notice that Garleans were on both sides of the fight. Moving on, Hien says he needs to shore up his defenses and make some alliances. Y'shtola says there's a powerful Allagan generator in the burn that she believes was used to raise Azus Law aeons ago. She thinks it could be used to create a protective barrier for Doma if they can feed it ether somehow. Hien suggests they travel to the Azim Steppe, where there is a legend of an ancient powerful ether transmitter. Meeting with tribes of the steppe, lots of fighting ensues, but after a few victories, the Datharl and the Aranir tribes swear to ally with Doma. Then the Mole tribe leads you to the ancient transmitter. As the engineers get to work, the Scions leave to attend an Eorzean Alliance meeting. At this meeting, the leaders spend most of their time talking about how all their problems point back to the Ascians, and it's imperative they unite against them. Alamigo joins the alliance. After some discussion, the Scions are all suddenly racked with pain and hear a voice telling them that twin dooms approach. Thancred then collapses and enters a coma-like state. Connie Senna inspects him and says it appears his soul has been separated from his body. Later, the same happens to Urianger and Y'shtola. Alisei is very concerned about the situation and takes some time to visit Gabu, but he remains silent as before. Meanwhile, Xenos urges Emperor Varus to attack Alamigo, but he hesitates. Then a man named Solus enters the room. He's an Ascian and the founder of the Garlean Empire. Later at the Rising Stones, Cryo offers to help the comatose Scions. She uses Matoya's crystal eye, but it's of no use. Maxima comes to Alamigo to warn them of the Black Rose, a Garlean weapon of mass destruction. He also warns them that he believes Garlemald is about to attack Alamigo. He tells the Scions Alphinaud is traveling with Shadowhunter. Moving on, the Scions return to the burn with Hien and erect the protective barrier. This barrier will prevent Garlean ships from crossing the burn. Just then, a small Garlean ship approaches and is stopped by the barrier. The ship lands, and Hien lowers the barrier. Out of the ship steps Shadowhunter carrying Alphinaud, who is also in a coma-like state. It is then revealed that Shadowhunter is none other than Gaius von Belsar. After Lahabrea used him at the Praetorium, Gaius left Garlemald to dedicate his life to hunting Ascians. Sometime later, Emperor Varus agrees to meet with the Eorzean leaders to negotiate peace. Their discussion goes on for quite some time, and Emperor Varus maintains that Eorzeans should simply join Garlemald and be united under one kingdom. Negotiations fail, and Varus proudly reveals that Garlemald was founded by an Ascian. War breaks out at the Gimlet Dark. Then at the front lines, Alisei collapses into a coma, and moments later, you find yourself face to face with Xenos. During the encounter, you collapse and you find yourself in a magical rift where an enigmatic figure speaks to you. He says he's in urgent need of your help, and whether you win or lose the war you're in, doom is coming. He urges you to go to the Crystal Tower. You awaken in Ishgard and learn that Estinian removed you from the battlefield when you went unconscious. Meanwhile, in Garlemald, Emperor Varus is preparing to unleash Black Rose. And the katana-wielding soldier says some mysterious words about you taking time to get stronger. Later, you gaze upon the Crystal Tower and think about how all of the Scions are in comas now because of this mysterious soul caller. And that concludes the story of the post-Stormblood patches. I hope you've enjoyed this recap. Stick around on this channel. I'll be releasing the next video in this series, the story of Shadowbringers. Until next time.